the United States. Next, this right and been granted in states first only men of property and the vote, then men who were educated were also added on. Next, working class men got the vote only after a long struggle. Finally, after a bitter struggle of their own, American and British women were granted the vote. On the other hand, soon after independence, India chose to grant this right to all its citizens regardless of gender, class or education. Next, a second feature of the constitution was that it granted equality before the law of to all citizens regardless of their caste or religious implications. There were some Indians who wished that the political system of the new nation be based on Hindu ideas and that India itself be run as a Hindu state. Next, they pointed to the example of Pakistan, a country created protect and further the interest of a particular religious community, the Muslim. However, the Indian Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru was of the opinion that India could not and must not become a Hindu Pakistan. Next, beside Muslim, India also had large populations of Sikhs and Christians as well as many Parsis and Jains. Under the new constitution, they would have the same rights and Hindu the same opportunities when it came to seeking job in government or the private sector, the same rights before the law. Next, a third feature of the constitutions was that it offered special privilege for the poorest and most disadvantaged Indians. The practice of habitually described as a stars and bolt on the fair name of India was absent. Hindu temples previously open to only the higher castes were thrown open to all, including the former untouchables. After a long debate, the Constituent Assembly also recommended that a certain percentage of seats in legislature as well as jobs in government be reserved for members of the lowest caste. It had been argued by some that untouchable, or as they were now known, Harijan candidates did not have good enough grades to get into the prestigious Indian Administrative Service, but as one member of the Constituent Assembly, H.C. Khadgere. Next, along with the former untouchable, the advised or scheduled tribe were also granted reservation in seats and jobs. Like the scheduled caste, these Indians too had been deprived and discriminated against. The tribals had been deprived of modern health care and education, while their land and forests had been taken away by more powerful outsider. The new privilege granted them by the constitutions were meant to make amend of this. Next, the Constituent Assembly spent many days discussing the powers of the central government, whereas those of state governments. Some members thought that the center's interests should be most foremost. Only a strong center, it was argued, would be in a position to think and plan for the well-being of the country as a whole. Other members felt that the province should have greater autonomy and freedom. A member from Mysore feared that under the present system, democracy is centered in Delhi, and it is not allowed it work in the same sense and spirit in the rest of the country. A member from Madras insisted that the initial responsibility for the well-being of the people of the province should rest with the provincial governments. Next, the constitution should to balance this competing claim by providing their lists of subjects, a union list with subjects such as tax, defense, and foreign affairs, which would be the exclusive responsibility of the center, a state list of subjects such as education and health, which would be taken care of principally by the states, a concrete list under which would come subjects such as forest and agriculture, in which the center and the states would have joint responsibility. Next, another major debate in the Constitution Assembly concerned language. Many members believed that the English language should leave India with the British rulers. It is place, they argued, should be taken by Hindi. However, those who did not speak Hindi were of a different opinion. Next, speaking in the assembly, T. Krishnamurti and Krishnacharya conveyed a warning on behalf of people of the south, some of whom threatened to separate from India in Hindi was imposed on them. Many Indians contributed to the forming of the constitution, but perhaps the most important role was played by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, who was chairman of the drafting committee and under whose supervision that document was finalized. In this final speech to the Constituent Assembly, Dr. Ambedkar pointed out that political democracy had to be accompanied by economic and social democracy. Next, giving the right to vote would not automatically lead to the removal of other frequencies inequalities such as between rich and poor or between upper and lower castes. With the new constitution, he said India was next going to enter into a life in policies. We will have equality, and in social and economic life we will have inequality. He policies we will be recognizing the principle of one man, one vote, and one value in our social and economic life. We shall, by reason of our social and economic structure, continue to deny the principle of one man, one value. Next, however, states to be framed